The kind of research that we do here in the Social Interactions and Emotions Lab is looking at human communication in a close quarters, face-to-face kind of sense. So we get people in and we get them to talk to one another. One of the nicest kinds of communication that I get is when we get people in and they just get them to chat to understand what happens. And we look at the various social signals that we use, that people use, and how the non-verbal communication combines with the verbal communication to make a communicative whole. To do that, we use technology from a field called affective computing. In that field, we use sensors and cameras and artificial intelligence to work out what facial expressions people have, how the facial muscles are moving to create those facial expressions, what gestures people do as they're talking, how people nod their heads at appropriate times. Understanding all of those subtle nuances that perhaps we don't realize that we're doing whenever we're in communication with one another. So there's a variety of impacts that this research has. So we work, first and foremost, we work closely with a lot of companies, and those companies are developing these technologies. So there's a lot of AI companies developing technologies that allow us to understand these communications. And there's lots of big companies like Apple and Meta that are working very closely on these kinds of technologies. And I have lots of colleagues in the field that work in those places. So that's one aspect. When we get these technologies and we develop these technologies, it allows us to collect data in ways that simply haven't been possible because of the labor-intensive nature of coding these things by hand. So all sorts of interesting research questions open up, one of which we're looking at is trying to understand therapy and psychological therapy through the use of these technologies so that we can help with training. We can understand what works well. We can understand what might be getting misunderstood in these therapeutic interactions. So these technologies allow us to ask questions about that simply weren't available to us before.